So imagine you're at your workplace at the water cooler with a couple of other coworkers. The topic of modesty comes up, and one of your LDS coworkers explains that his view is that you dress so that you don't tempt the people around you. One of your other coworkers thinks that this might be problematic and promotes something known as rape culture, in that the woman who dresses provocatively is blamed for being raped or sexually assaulted or whatever the case may be. But instead of the blame being put on the man, it's put on the girl who dressed a certain way. Your LDS coworker thinks that the woman should be held accountable for the way she's dressing. Your coworker is astonished that he would promote such a thing and wants to know if this is the opinion of all LDS or just the opinion of this man. So what do you say to him? Or her? What do you say to your coworker? Do you think that modesty is different in the workplace? I think so. Let's discuss how modesty takes on differing roles at work, at school, and in church. So how do you respond to immodesty at work? Not everyone we work with will share our values. And most don't see anything wrong with dressing attractively for work. So how should we as the LDS view this? I think a good rule of thumb is to think, does this person's work have any bearing on the clothing that they're wearing? Does their clothing affect their work in any way? Does her outfit affect the work of others in any way? Is it the responsibility of the person who thinks it's revealing to say so? And if it were to bring undue attention, is that the fault of the person wearing the clothing or the person who can't concentrate because the clothing is provocative by their standards? You should also probably ask yourself, did you lose any respect for the person who dressed that way? And to what standards are you holding her accountable to? To your own? To the workplace's standards? Do your standards match your workplace's standards? And should you feel badly about judging her by your standards? So, what's appropriate for one person to wear and what's appropriate for another person to wear may not be the same. So you have to take into account that your own personal bias is included in that. So we should show the same amount of respect for others regardless of their standards of modesty and our standards of modesty if they interconnect. So the last thing for work is that we should be examples of the respect that we want to get. But pushing our views on others isn't something we should be doing. At school, we sign an honor code. And sometimes that can make students hypervigilant about modesty. For example, there was the skinny jeans debate in the testing center back in 2011. Some women were refused admittance to take their final exams because they were wearing skinny jeans. And some of the ladies didn't find anything wrong with this. There was no requirement in the honor code that said skinny jeans aren't allowed. And eventually the administration agreed with them and they were allowed to take their final exams. There was a poll in LDS Living magazine that asked respondents, is it appropriate to wear a shorter dress with leggings underneath? And 18,000 plus people responded to this online poll. And 39% replied, no, it's not appropriate. But 40% said it depended on how short the skirt was under the leggings. And 21% said, yes, that's appropriate to be modest to wear leggings under a shorter skirt. 28% of the readership said that wearing leggings with skirts was tacky in general, even when it was worn to their standards of length. So granted, this was a voluntary internet poll for online readers of this magazine, and it wasn't representative of the entire LDS population. The church website talks about modesty, and it says that we should ask ourselves, would I feel comfortable with my appearance if I were in the Lord's presence? Many different students have differing opinions on this. I mean, what you might feel modest and beautiful looking in front of the Savior might not have the same effect from someone else. So take that into account. So we need to keep in mind that our own personal preferences don't constitute everyone's idea of modesty, and that differing views on this can still both be included in the honor code. So when we go to church on Sunday, there's no official dress code. Members and investigators can wear what they like to worship in. But I wasn't raised this way. When I brought a friend to church, I had them wear a dress from my closet to make sure they were modest. As a teenager, I once approached a member in Young Women's and told her that she should know better than to wear a sleeveless sweater in the church building. I now realize how damaging this kind of talk can be. If I walked in church and someone commented negatively on my outfit, I would probably be offended too. So realize that some people take offense to those types of things and don't come back. So we really have to be careful. When I was a youth, our Young Women's president often taught that we are modest so that we keep the young men's thoughts and actions pure. Lustful thoughts can turn into lustful behaviors, and soon after that, perhaps the young men wouldn't be worthy to pass the sacrament. So now I realize that it's a courtesy to dress modestly so that they don't have to fight their thoughts. But another person's opinion should never be the reason for one to dress themselves with respect. Once again, this places the blame on a woman for a man's impure thoughts. So we need to take responsibility for our own actions. Of course, dress yourself with respect, but that shouldn't be the reason we're doing it to be for the man's sake. You know, we need to take responsibility for our own dress to see that we're dressing as the Savior would have us do. But when we're taught things like immodesty leads to men thinking impurely, you can see that that promotes the culture of thinking that it's a woman's fault if she's sexually assaulted or something of the sort. So we can see that modesty takes on different roles in different places. At work, your dress code may or may not be modest for employees, but we should still be respectful and never blame their appearance or what they're wearing for unwanted advances and things of that sort. So at school, differing opinions on modesty can all be supported by the honor code. So we need to be careful when trying to judge righteously. And lastly, at church, there's not an official dress code for anyone. Anyone is welcome to come, regardless of what they're wearing. So never cause offense by approaching someone about their modesty. You know, you don't want to offend someone so badly that they don't come back. So what I want you to take away is kind of a new outlook on modesty. I think that we should think that modesty isn't about dressing for positive or negative attention from other people. When we focus on teaching our children that what they dress like is how other people will respect them, we teach them that their value is determined by what someone else sees. That is a total fallacy. You should be dressing for yourself and to show others what you see is important about yourself. So dress the way you feel you respect yourself the most. That's the way we know we're dressing the way we'd feel comfortable with the Savior. So I look forward to your comments and questions in the discussion boards. Thank you so much.